Words can be dangerous. Never mind sticks and stones, combined, bound and published and placed in the wrong hands, words can kill. In this video, we're about to come face to face with some of the most dangerous words ever written.
That's the first time I've seen the inside of a copy of Mein Kampf.
And discuss how, or even if, we should be protected from them. With the help of one massive collection of banned books, we're about to look at why all kinds of books have been censored, the risks for readers and the risks for writers.
They're going to come in with a big red pen and they're going to come after you and your family.
From cover to cover, let's explore some of the world's most dangerous books. Welcome to another Rob Words. Now, this is a big subject. That's why I'm doing this with some help from the world's only museum of banned books in Tallinn, Estonia.
Hey, so here we are. This is the Museum of Banned Books. That's Joe, who runs the place. He's going to tell us a bit about some of the books he's got here. He's got about 300 of them in total, and they've all been either banned or censored by various regimes around the world, religious groups, schools, some libraries. They're all here.
Now, you could say that all of these books have at some point, rightly or wrongly, been deemed dangerous by someone. Be that dangerous to the reader, dangerous to wider society, to certain groups, or just dangerous to the authority of an oppressive regime. So let's take a look at some of the most extreme cases and begin by looking at perhaps the most notorious book of all time.
Now, I'm feeling weirdly nervous about what I've got in front of me here. If you just have a look down here, I've got two versions of a book that you will have heard of, Mein Kampf by Adolf Hitler.
Mein Kampf, or My Struggle, was written by Hitler in the 1920s during a short stay in prison in Bavaria. He served only 8 months, despite having led an attempt to overthrow the government. The book, originally in 2 volumes, sets out the fundamental principles of Nazi ideology. The World Holocaust Remembrance Center, Yad Vashem, describes its main themes as the superiority of the Aryan race, Hitler's plan for Aryan world rule, and the guilt of the Jews as the destroyers of the world. This is Hitler's political autobiography and his manifesto, and by the time the Second World War began, 5 million copies had been sold. Because of the principles set out in this book, millions of people were murdered through the Holocaust, through euthanasia clinics, and beyond.
Now, it feels very strange to be holding what here is an original version, unadulterated text, and what here is the version that is legally published now in Germany. For a long time, you weren't allowed to publish Mein Kampf in Germany, but you can now. It's in the public domain. And this version, instead of being the unadulterated word of Adolf Hitler, is an annotated version. And you can see that you have no choice, pretty much, if you want to read it, but to also have to read the notes that accompany it.
Part of the reason it returned to print in Germany in 2016 in this annotated form was essentially to demystify it and, as the publishers put it, undermine the still effective symbolic power of the book. That's also the reason why Joe leaves the annotated version just out, sitting among the other books. No special treatment. Anyone can pick it up and just have a look.
I've had many visitors to the museum from Germany and they want to talk about this book. It's obviously a key text in the history of censorship. It's important for us to have it and to be honest about it and to show that it's not going to bite you.
Has anyone ever told you that they don't think you should have it here?
No.
For what it's worth, Mein Kampf is not a well-written book. It's rambling, it's repetitious, und der deutsche Text ist voller grammatikalischer Fehler. But the damage the ideology within it has done made it, for me, an uncomfortable object to be around.
Spooky, isn't it?
And perhaps that's what has to change.
That first time I've seen the inside of a copy of Mein Kampf.
It's not going to hurt you.
In any other context, though, any other place, I think I'd have felt a bit weird about it.
The fact is, no book is going to physically hurt you, short of a paper cut or someone lobbing it at your head. But reading it could lead you to do something that does. And that's precisely the case with our next book, the Anarchist Cookbook. As the title suggests, this book contains many a recipe for disaster. Inside are instructions on how to build bombs, how to make firearms, and even how to mix illegal drugs. And I'm deliberately avoiding showing you the inside. In the wrong hands, this book could harm the reader just as much as it could harm anyone else. And that's why Joe keeps his copy out of reach.
Our rule is called the 14-year-old rule. It's basically if a 14-year-old or any child could come in with a cell phone and take a picture of the content of the book and then use that picture to hurt themselves or other people, then we keep that book under the desk.
The author, William Powell, inspired by his anger over the Vietnam War, wrote this book as an aid to anyone wanting to resist authority by any means. He wrote it when he was just 19 years old, and he'd go on to spend most of the rest of his life trying to stop anyone from reading it, calling it a youthful indiscretion.
He wrote the book, published it, unbelievably successful. Can't stop printing it. He sold the rights to it, and then he realized, oh my God, people are losing their hands, people are losing fingers, people are losing eyes because of the bad instructions inside the book. The formulas are wrong. The instructions are wrong. And he felt responsible for that.
Of course, it's not just the harm this book could do to the reader that makes it dangerous. Perpetrators of all manner of horrifying acts have been found to be in possession of this book. And despite its apparent role in several mass shootings, the Anarchist Cookbook is not banned in the US. It's protected under the right to free speech set out in the First Amendment of the Constitution. It's also not banned in the UK either. But it is banned in Australia, where it was refused classification, making it illegal to sell the book there. William Powell's own attempts to stop people reading the book were thwarted by the fact that he'd sold the rights, and the publishers, that were making a lot of money, didn't share his desire to stop printing it. Powell died in 2016 at the age of 66, with the book still available.
Although most versions of it are edited, most publishers were, let's say, wise enough to remove some of the more egregious examples of bad information.
Earlier this year, Illinois became the first US state to effectively ban the banning of books. But whether or not you see that as a good or a bad thing depends on where you get your news. But I was able to compare the coverage on Ground News, where it shows a wide range of sources on this topic. Here you can see that left-wing outlets treat this as a victory over censorship, but the right-wing media portrayed it as an assault on public libraries. At a time when trust in the news is at an all-time low, it's never been more important to understand where your news comes from. Ground News is a website and app that provides you with all of the knowledge you need. It gathers all of the world's media in one place and shows you the various ways a story is being told. You can see where on the political spectrum a source lies, how reliable it is, and, crucially, who's funding it. With many cases like the article about Illinois, where headlines differ based on the outlet's opposing interests, staying informed is essential. So head over to ground.news/robwords for 30% off unlimited access. The Anarchist Cookbook was first published in the 1970s. Mein Kampf came out in the 1920s. So let's have a look at a much more recent example of a book deemed by some to be too dangerous to read. 13 Reasons Why by J. Asher. The book, first published in 2007, tells the story of a teenage girl who takes her own life. Hannah Baker leaves behind a series of audio tapes that explain to different people in her life the ways in which they contributed to her death. 7 double-sided tapes, 13 people, 13 reasons why. If this is ringing a bell for you, it might be because the book was turned into a hugely successful Netflix series, thanks to the novel becoming a bestseller. And it was after that series came out in 2017 that the controversy really took hold. Mental health professionals warned the young adult targeted show could trigger suicidal thoughts among vulnerable teens, and some research appeared to bear that out. A study carried out in the US pointed to a noticeable rise in suicides among young people in the 3 months following its release.
Almost 100 more 10 to 19-year-olds took their own lives during that period than would normally be expected. Ironically, 13% more. The percentage increase was particularly stark among young girls and limited to only that age group, the age group of the protagonist.
The characters spend the entire book analysing her life, looking at her motivations, really spending a lot of time paying attention to this girl who, during her life, was not paid attention to. You can see how that kind of feeds into a certain "they will miss me when I'm gone" mentality.
13 Reasons Why has been heavily criticised by suicide prevention groups who say it fails to follow recommendations on the portrayal of suicide, fails to talk sufficiently about the role of mental health in suicide, suggesting it's a result of stressors and coping challenges, and discourages the seeking of help because, in the end, everyone lets Hannah down. After a further study appeared to show a link between the series and increased youth suicides, this time in Ontario, Canada, the censorship came in. Not by any government, though, by schools. Some Canadian schools banned all talk of 13 Reasons Why, with one sending an email to the parents of 6th graders letting them know their students were prohibited from even mentioning the show on school grounds. So what do you think? The right decision?
I'm very anti-censorship, but this is a book which really pushes me to my personal limits.
If this book really is threatening the lives of young people, isn't limiting access to it the right thing to do? That depends on whether you only take into account those studies. Others found no link between the show and teen suicides. Netflix pointed to its own research suggesting the series increased empathy with people who were struggling with the issues in the story. And the author, Jay Asher, says we need to be talking about suicide more, not less. Asked about the controversy in 2017, he said, well, then what's the option? Not talking about it? Which then keeps that stigma that this is something we're not going to talk about. He also said that he'd had young girls telling him that they wouldn't be alive had it not been for the book. Unlike the words on the page, censorship of a book is rarely black and white. So far we've talked about books being censored to supposedly protect the reader or protect wider society, but we haven't mentioned the danger that some books pose to the author themselves. That's where our next book comes in.
Satanic Verses is one of the most famous and important texts here.
Salman Rushdie's fourth novel, published in 1988, resulted in him quickly having to go into hiding, fearing for his life. The book's reimagining of some of the life of the Prophet Muhammad was seen as outrageously blasphemous in parts of the Muslim world, which banned it. And in 1989, Iran's leader promised a multi-million-dollar reward to anyone who killed the author. The threat also extended to other people associated with the book, including Hitoshi Igarashi, who translated it into Japanese. In 1991, he was murdered. The fatwa, as it's known, the order to kill Rushdie, has never officially been withdrawn, although Iran said in 1998 that it would neither support nor hinder any assassination attempt. And thankfully, Rushdie is still with us, although he very nearly wasn't. Only last year he was brutally attacked at an event where he was due to speak about freedom of expression. He survived.
He still has a sense of humour, which is admirable.
It is, yeah.
I mean, you know, and he's writing again, minus one hand, unfortunately, and one eye.
Staying with the risks that authors take, Joe was particularly keen to show me the museum's collection of books banned in China. He was living there when he began gathering these things.
China is a country which continues to practice a lot of censorship. Actually, what they've really done is they've developed a system of self-censorship for their authors. It's a structural censorship.
Right.
So authors don't even write the books in the first place.
Yeah.
Which is the most insidious.
Yeah, you can see how that would happen, right? I mean,
yeah,
they're not going to waste their time if they know that the censors are going to come in with their big red pen and
they're going to come in with a big red pen and they're going to come after you and your family. So you've got to be very careful when you write.
China's President Xi is also responsible for another surprising addition to the museum's collection.
This is a really interesting section. This is the section that is children's books that have been censored or have been banned. And you've got things here that you would perhaps never expect to see in a museum of banned books. For example, you've got Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, which was banned, for example, in China for its depictions of animals speaking human tongues, basically the sign of a demon. Then you've also got Winnie the Pooh. Why? Because this fella, and he does, looks a bit like the Chinese leader.
Chinese internet users started making memes replacing the president of China with Winnie the Pooh so they could criticize him freely.
As a result, it's widely believed that images of Winnie the Pooh are being censored on Chinese social media. Though the books themselves haven't been banned, their main character appears to have been.
Oh, bother.
This is the section that'll interest the language geeks among you, and I know you're there. These are all books about languages that have been suppressed for one reason or another. For example, there's a book here to teach Basque to English speakers. Basque culture and language has historically been suppressed in both France and Spain, which I think might surprise people to hear.
Unless you happen to have seen my recent short on precisely this subject.
The Welsh language as well. It's doing very well now in terms of a resurgence, but in the past, its teaching has been restricted.
Centuries of suppression of Welsh saw it go from being the language spoken by 90% of the population of Wales to only around 22% today. There are stories of children being punished for speaking Welsh in the classroom from as recently as the 1940s. In this video, we've seen how books can be dangerous, but we've also seen how censorship can be harmful too. So how the heck are you supposed to know what's good censorship and what's bad?
When people come in here, I don't try to say to them, look, this is what censorship is, or this is what it means to ban a book. I present them with all of these different cases, and then it's for them to contemplate, oh yeah, you know, this doesn't seem that bad to me, but this is a real good example of censorship. Or this I don't think qualifies, but this one absolutely qualifies. And you see like the wheels turning, and it's like, great, we've achieved our mission, which is to give people the tools to think about this topic.
Thanks so much to Joe for showing me around. If you're ever in Tallinn, just go and see him. He's got so many more fascinating stories to tell you. The big news from me is that I now have a newsletter. It's full of the sorts of things you've come to expect from this YouTube channel, you know, word histories, language fun, all kinds of goodies. So go to robwords.com/newsletter to sign up to it, or I'll pop a link below. If you've enjoyed this video, I think you'll like this one too. But if you've already seen it, why not check out this one? And I'll see you over there.
I do hate this one.
You're going to
I'm going to censor the Museum of Banned Books. It's just, there's certain words I just don't want in my videos. I mean, that's bad, right?
Yeah.